Hello, welcome back, and today I want to do another video about drawing trend lines, understanding trend lines, or avoiding some of the common mistakes that I see traders make when using trend lines. And I will show you across a few different examples how to use trend lines the right way. I will not show you how to enter trades using trend lines because there's a lot that goes to it. Such as market analysis, trend analysis, and that is reserved for our premium courses. But if you are looking for improving your trend line drawing, then this video will clearly help you a lot. So first of all, let's step back, and we have to remember that trend line says it already, and you can only use trend lines in a trend. That's something that seems obvious at first, but many traders forget that. We need a trend to draw a trend line. That is the first rule, pretty clear rule. Also, one thing that I have come to know over the past 12 years in my trading is that I avoid markets where there is a lot of volatility. Then it becomes very hard to draw a trend line. So when a market shows a lot of candle wicks, then it is usually harder to draw trend lines, and it's also harder to trade the market. Also, I avoid drawing trend lines when the market is just shooting up or down in a straight line, so so-called V-tops and V-bottoms. That's not a market that you should be trading. I like to look at markets where you have clear swings, like in this example here. You have clear uptrends, clear downtrends, not too much volatility. You can see a few wicks here and there, but nothing too much. And then we grab our trend line tool in TradingView. I've moved it now. Let me move it back into the frame. Here, this is the trend line tool. I have also set it here. When you click on the star, it goes to your quick launch bar, and then once you click it, it is active. And you can see here in this period, in this period, you have a trending market, not a super strong trend, but there is clearly a trend. And what I do is then I look for the lows. So in an uptrend, we try to look for the lows, and in a downtrend, we try to connect the highs, usually to get an idea of the trending structure and to find trend lines. And you can see already that here that there are a few lows that probably line up in a way. I have drawn trend lines for 12 years now, so I've probably drawn tens of thousands of trend lines, so that it's really obvious for me, for my eye, where the lows will probably connect. If you are new to trading, then be patient. Don't lose faith, don't lose hope. Just grab your tool and try drawing trend lines everywhere where you can see them or where you suspect them. It will become much easier very quickly. So just use the tools, and if you're new, especially for the next few days or weeks, just try to understand the structure of the markets, draw trend lines, draw support resistance, and then you will get a feeling. So what we do is that I click on the first one. Here is the starting point. Here you can see this is not here really the starting point of the trend. This is a double bottom here. So this is really where the starting point, where I see the starting point. And then you can see we have the next low. And the general rule for a trend line is that you need at least 3 touch points. So we can draw the trend line already if we just know what has happened from here to here. We can connect them, obviously, but again, you can connect any 2 random points on a chart. That's always possible. And then what I do is I extend my trend line forward, and then I wait for a next touch point. In this case, you can see we have a clear touch point here. Even if you wouldn't have known what has happened here, if you see that the market is coming into the trend line again, leaving such a nice rejection candle, that is often a good sign that the market is still in an uptrend. The uptrend is still in play, and that traders use it as pullback trading. That's the phrase that is usually used, is where you have, in this case, a trend line. Sometimes you can also use a moving average, where the market goes back into your trend line or moving average or support and resistance, and then you look for clues how to enter such a market based on different patterns or different signals. And you can see here the next time the market comes back into the trend line, we overshoot it a little bit, and This is a very important point, and I don't like to blindly trade off trend lines. So there are many traders who, when they see that the price is coming into a trend line, they will have their buy order sitting right at the trend line, and they will just randomly enter the trade without knowing what the market is doing. And that is very, very a bad way of trading, in my opinion. And I always like to wait a little bit. I want to see, is the market actively breaking the trend line, or are we pulling away from the trend line? So I will never ever just because there's a trend line enter a trade. I will always wait, is the market pulling away, is the market able to break lower, and then this is how I will structure my trades. And this is a way how you can get a little bit in later into your trades, but also with more assurance, with more information, and that is very helpful. That how I have found. In my trading, I use trend lines also a little bit differently because I trade a little bit differently. I'm not a conventional trend following trader. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to check the link in the description to our trading course. So here's another example, and it becomes quite obvious how I like to draw trend lines. I don't like, as I said, the explosive or the very, very strong trends. I found that it is much harder to find good trend lines there. It's also much harder to trade a very strongly moving market. So many traders, they always are looking for momentum. They always complain when there's momentum, and then once the momentum comes back, then they complain that it's too much and that they get whipped around. So you really have to understand what type of trader you are, and you have to really listen to yourself and look at your journal. So again, here we're looking for the start of the trend. Here is not the start of the trend. You can see we're coming from the downtrend. We make a double bottom, and then here's the uptrend is starting. So here's the starting point. You can see here now we have maybe 1 or 2 touch points. Do you count that as 1 or as 2? That's up to you, but usually I like to see that the price is coming back a little bit later. So there's a little bit more time between the touches. So in this case, not this one, I would put my trend line, or I would start drawing the trend line here once I know that there is a touch point. And then even without knowing what has happened here, I would extend my trend line, and then you can just wait until the price is coming back to the trend line. You can see the market is hovering a little bit, and then suddenly it is spiking away from the trend line. So there's a good reaction, validation of the trend line. And again, we're not going to enter just blindly at the trend line because there's a trend line. That's how the amateurs trade. That's what you read in the trading books. But wait for a little bit more confirmation, a little bit more information, and then your quality will improve. And you can see here we even get another touch point, and then the market is shooting off a little bit more before it then completely drops, which is another pattern that is very, very interesting. I'm not going to go into this in this video, but again, it's part of our Pro membership and the way I trade actually. There's also a little tip in TradingView. If you want to create parallel channels, you can just activate the trend line, and then on my keyword, it's Control C, it's Control V, and then you have created a parallel trend line by copy pasting the existing one, and you can move it around and see if you get a parallel trend line or channel. Sometimes, or not always will you get a channel, but you will get an inner trend line. That's a different trading concept. So you can see here, this is an inner trend line where you can see, let me just move it the right way. It is, as the name suggests, it is moving inside the price action. You can see sometimes it acts as resistance, it does act support as resistance, and that is also a nice concept which many traders like to use in their trading. So this is a market where it is a little bit tougher, and I'm not quite sure that's the ideal market, but it is another good example. So this is right in between a market that is trending too strongly, where you have very strong pull away from the average, and a market that is slow and good for a trend. You can see here we clearly have a trend. We do have a lot of points here, swing lows at this trending phase. So let's just draw a trend line. Here would probably be the starting point, but again, this is, yeah, sometimes that's a good rule as well, or a good example. You are not always able to draw a trend line. In my trading, I use support and resistance, supply and demand. I use trend lines, and I use local highs and lows, and many other concepts of technical analysis. And this allows me to switch between different tools. Wherever I see the tool fits best, then I will use it. If a market is not offering me a trend line, I will go to support and resistance. If that doesn't offer me one, I will look for something else. And if I cannot draw any zones or lines, I will go to a regular price action with regular chart patterns. And that is something that many traders should look into. If you have problems that you always end up forcing specific trend lines or support and resistance, sometimes you know that the line that you're about to draw is not really that nice. It's a lot of wicks are spiking through it. It's not respected that well, but you don't know any better. Then don't draw a trend line. Don't force something where you know it's not a perfect fit. Try to look for a different tool or try a different market. You don't have to trade the same market all the time. In my trading, I follow all the Forex pairs. I trade all Forex pairs across different time frames. So that's roughly 40 to 50 Forex pairs that I follow. But every week I only end up with 3 to 6 trades because I am so selective in the process and I can only trade the best setups. So here, let's start with the trend line here in this phase. And then you can see we have good confluence. We have here a few touch points, and then you can see the next time we move into the level, a very, very strong reaction. We spike into it, we spike away from it, and then the uptrend continues. So that's a very good trend line to have. You can see that's even a break and retest pattern here. You can see we break the trend line, we come back into it and retest it along with some previous support levels which are becoming resistance. So you can see we can combine different things very nicely here already. And because so many people always complain, okay, you can do hindsight analysis, but what is about forward analysis? In technical analysis, especially when it comes to teaching, you always have to start on the left to explain the concepts that you're using, and then you can move to the right-hand side where the chart is empty and where you do live analysis. But that's generally what people always complain about. So let's talk about here. We have a current chart. It doesn't matter which market it is, doesn't matter which time frame. Trend lines work on all the markets, all the time frames. So let's draw a trend line here. You can see we are starting here on the left-hand side at the bottom, and you can see we do have here a few touch points, here barely touching it. Then here we probably have our second or third touch point, and then you can see 2 more times we come back into the trend line, and then the market is always bouncing away from the trend line. So that's a nice way for pullback trading. And you can see the next one here, a small reaction, and then the trend line is invalidated. After something like this has happened, I will take off my trend line because it's not longer useful anymore. Now we can take a look at, can we find another trend line, maybe a lower one that is describing the current price action. Let's go here to our starting point of the trend actually. So we have our first one, now we have our second one, and this is not a validated trend line yet. We need a third touch point. So this will be quite interesting, and that is how you can probably map out trades. So what I want to do is I want to wait here for the market come back into the level, maybe give us a nice rejection or some other pattern that we trade. Here's also a nice previous support area so that few things come together. And if this level holds and if you see a bounce, we can use this trend line to make actual trading decisions going forward. Here another market, current chart, whatever time frame, whatever market, it does not matter. What matters is how we use our technical analysis and how we make sense of the market. So again, let's start here. So you can see we are in an uptrend here clearly. We move from the bottom left to the top right. So here's probably where the uptrend is starting. Here is more or less a range market. You can see that. So I will select the starting point. Then here we have a very clear swing point. And let's draw a trend line. Let's make that correct. And now we still have, okay, I would say this is 1 touch point. I would not count that as 2 probably. If you did, then you probably would have found here already an entry, but I'm waiting now for the validation of this trend line. Has not happened yet. I'm waiting for the market to move into this trend line and then show us that the market is respecting it. We can probably just, when I eyeball it, here's probably a lower trend line as well. Yes, and you can see here first, second touch point. Here we probably would have had our third touch point. So this is a validated trend line. And here now we have even an intersection of two trend lines, which is quite interesting. So this is something that you can use in your trading. Either you wait for the market to find support and then see if the market moves higher, or maybe you look for a break of the trend line and then trade it to the downside. So there are a few things that you need to consider about trading trend lines, drawing trend lines, and this is then hopefully going to help you in your trading moving forward. If you like this video, I would be very thrilled about a thumbs up. If you want to learn more about my trading and trade with me in our trading forum, then check the link in the description, and I will see you in the next video.